Hello and welcome to another Brawl video. This week my supporters on Patreon voted for Oko Lorwyn Liege, a blue-green deck that reunites every single lord in the blue-green colors into one deck, so we can use Oko to turn our creatures into having all creature types, so they can pick up all the +1/+1 bonuses from all these various lords, as well as sharing their other abilities, even if our creatures don't have a ton of creature types in common. So let's take a closer look at Oko Lorwyn Liege, our commander, a 3-mana planeswalker starting out at 3 loyalty, although we can immediately go to 5 loyalty with a +2, saying up to 1 target creature gains all creature types. That's not until end of turn, so that's a permanent change, essentially turning a creature into a changeling having all creature types. Can also target opposing creatures, but for the most part we want to target our own stuff. Then could also use the +1 instead to shrink an opposing creature down until our next turn. Can come in handy against evasive threats that we cannot easily block. And then at the beginning of our first main phase we could pay a green to transform Oko, although usually we want to keep the front side until we can at least get to 6 or more loyalty, at which point we may consider transforming it into the Shadowmoor Scion, where the -6 is what we're most interested in, letting us choose a creature type, and then we get an emblem saying the creatures of the chosen type get +3/+3 and have vigilance and hexproof. So a very nice payoff, especially if all our creatures already have the chosen type thanks to the +2 ability. So then if Oko survives, we could once again maybe transform it back into the front side and keep using the +2 ability to maybe set up some more of the minus abilities on the back. So that's our game plan, use Oko to turn all our creatures into every type, and then hopefully profit thanks to our many lords. So then if we take a look at our deck breakdown, I've split it up into a few different categories, starting with a bit of mana acceleration, and especially the 1-drops that help us play Oko on turn 2 are incredibly valuable, and then we have some other ramp cards as well that can maybe share their abilities among creatures with the same type. Then we have a little bit of removal. We are mostly a creature deck. We want to have as many permanents as possible to synergize with the -1 ability from the Shadowmoor Scion, where we get to mill 3 and then put a permanent from among them into our hand. So we don't want to have a lot of instants and sorceries, but these various transformation enchantments are pretty useful in Brawl. If you can enchant an opposing commander with it, it loses all its abilities, and then as long as we don't destroy it, we can also maybe shrink it down even further with Oko's +1 ability. Then our opponent won't gain access to their commander, and we can try to take over with our other creature synergies. And it also is quite thematic given Kenra's transformation and alking opposing creatures. And then we also have some other creatures that can blow up artifacts and enchantments, a few changelings in this category as well, which also synergize with the other lords in the deck. And then we get to the biggest category by far, which are all the various lords, and there's a ton at 2 mana as well as at 3 mana, giving all creatures of that particular type +1/+1, and there's some other very useful abilities throughout that we can also take advantage of. And then we've got a small card draw section as well, some cards that reward us for casting creature spells, which is what we're all about. And then the miscellaneous section has some nice goodies as well, including a few more ways to maybe protect creatures of a certain type, like the diffusion sliver in the case of slivers. We also have a few clone effects, especially Spark Double's a nice one, as it can also maybe clone our commander. And then we've got some more payoffs like the Thrumming Hive pool for slivers, and then now every sliver will have haste and double strike on top of giving us additional 1/1 slivers each turn. And then we also have a few more ways to transform creatures into every type between Omo, Queen of Vesuva, and of course Maskwood Nexus, which will have an immediate impact when we play it. So that's our deck in a nutshell. Now for the deep dive, starting with mana acceleration. At 1 mana there's Birds of Paradise, Delighted Halfling can even make Oko uncounterable, there's Elvish Mystic and Llanowar Elves, and we have enough forests to support Utopia Sprawl to make an extra mana for us. Then the Great Divide Guide makes all our allies tap for a mana of any color, so that could also make a bunch of extra mana if we have a lot of changelings in play. And then Mana Weft is the same with slivers this time. We've got Arcane Signet, which is still usually worth including, and a Mutable Explorer, making a Mutavault token. Also have the actual Mutavault in our mana base, turning into a creature that has all types, and the Explorer itself also being a changeling, so it can pick up the various bonuses without having to use Oko on it. Then our removal includes at 1 mana, Unable to Scream and Witness Protection, and then a few with Flash at 2 mana with Eaten by Piranhas, Fresh Start, Utter Insignificance. We also have Kenra's Transformation, which is on theme. And then to blow up artifacts and enchantments, there's the Masked Vandal and the Chomping Changeling, both also shapeshifters with a Changeling ability, which also synergizes with the Bears of Ligeara, which could be another way to take out opposing creatures once we reach the final chapter. And then Bar Samboko synergizes with birds, so can also get a discount for every Changeling or bird in play. The Birds of Paradise, another bird in the deck. And then Thunderflock gets a discount for the highest mana value among elementals we control, so that also works very nicely with changelings, and then bounces all non-elementals back to hand when it enters, so that can also give us a pseudo board wipe. And then we get to the Lords, starting with Supreme Phantom for spirits, Hexcatcher for merfolk, can also counter non-creature spells with it, Lord of the Unreal for illusions, also giving them hexproof. We've got Master of the Pearl Trident, giving Island Walk in addition to +1/+1, so that's also super relevant against the blue decks. Mayor of Avabrook can also maybe transform. We've got Predatory Sliver, just bumping all slivers, which still works fine in this deck. The Spore Crown Thallid for fungus and sapperling creatures. Squirrel Sovereign for squirrels. Tarantusk also has a laundry list of types it pumps. Elvish Clancaller and Leafground Visionary can pump elves, and the Visionary can occasionally also draw an extra card if we're casting another elf or changeling. And then there's the Mistbinder for merfolk. At 3 mana, Patrician Geist for spirits, Corsair Captain for pirates also makes a treasure, Marrow Regery once again for merfolk, and if we cast a merfolk or changeling, we also get to tap or untap target permanent. Feline Sovereign can pump up all our cats and also gives them protection from dogs, which is an ability where now targeting the opponent's creatures with Oko can come in handy, turning them into changelings, which also includes dog, so they cannot block our cats that have protection from dogs. And then if we connect, we can also blow up artifacts and enchantments. There's Imperious Perfect as another elf lord that can also make additional elf tokens. Elvish Archdruid, another elf lord, of course the most common type in this deck, and then can also tap for a whole bunch of mana for each elf we control. There's the Imperiosaur for dinosaurs. Then there's the Adaptive Automaton, which can choose any type, so that's often going for elf or merfolk as the most prevalent types. Speaking of merfolk, there's Master of Waves, which bumps up all elementals and can make a whole bunch of elemental tokens when it enters, has protection from red. And then we've got a few more elves with a Canopy Tactician tapping for triple green, and Dionus untapping any elf that taps for the first time in our turn, putting a +1 counter on them as well. So this is usually better before we get to Oko Emblem, otherwise we won't be able to tap our creatures as easily. And then the Nightpack Ambusher, we can even flash in at instant speed to maybe catch the opponent off guard, pumping wolves and werewolves. And then Tendershoot Dryad giving +2/+2 as long as we have the City's Blessing to any sapperlings, and we'll make a sapperling at the beginning of each upkeep, including the opponent's, so also just a powerful win condition in and of itself. Then our card draw includes the Guardian Project and Beast Whisper at 4 mana, and the Great Henge will get a discount equal to the greatest power among creatures we control, tapping for double green and 2 life, and when a non-token enters we also get to draw a card in addition to giving that creature a +1 counter. And then the miscellaneous section has a few more changelings as well. At 1 mana, we've got the Universal Automaton, no ability except Changeling, Diffusion Sliver for a bit of a ward, if you will. Then there's a Once Upon a Time to just find one of our creatures early in the game, if we can cast it for free especially. The Stalactite Dagger makes the Shapeshifter token, and then the equipped creature also turns into a Changeling. We've got the Mimic to copy a creature. Howlpack Resurgence, an enchantment we can flash in, giving wolves and werewolves +1/+1 and trample. There's Omo as one of the ways we have of transforming creatures into every type, in addition to Oko. Same with Maskwood Nexus, which will immediately apply to every creature in play. Then a Spark Double can copy a creature or planeswalker on our side, also makes it not legendary, so we can copy our commander. The Omni Changeling, another clone effect that also adds the Changeling ability. And then the Thrumming Hive Pool, and we have even some other slivers in play to discount it outside of having our changelings do the same, giving all of those slivers and changelings double strike and haste, as well as making an extra pair of sliver tokens each turn. And then our mana base is mostly mana fixing, a few utility lands here with a village to make stuff uncounterable, the channel lands can offer a bit more interaction, and then we have the Mutavault we mentioned as a creature land with all types if we activate it. Lots of fetch lands to get our shock land or surveil land, and then a 3/3 city can occasionally give us a small mana boost if we get enough of the same creature type in play. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Terra, so a Mardu, a Reanimator deck. Do have 2 removal spells for it, 3 lands, and then a couple slivers. I'll try it. Definitely need some help off the top. Start with a tapped Mimic. And then if our opponent's got a bunch of removal, Diffusion Sliver's not a bad starting point. Voice of Victory also hits pretty hard. But I'll still start with Diffusion. And then we'll see if we want to play Oko or maybe play some creatures to protect them first. Upside of having Oko in play is that we can immediately give something essentially ward 2. So it might be a good turn for Sliver plus unable to scream on Terra. They milled Zorilin. Take 3. Yeah, that seems reasonable. So both of our slivers have the Diffusion Sliver ability, even if this one doesn't have the symbol for some reason. Opponent's gonna path Diffusion, pay for it. We'll get a land. And we can absorb 1 damage. Okay, so now could be a fine turn for Oko. Could also fresh start on the voice. Yeah, don't hate it.
I'll give you a performance to remember. Change is good for the soul.
Flash can deal with the Sliver. Or maybe even take out their own Terra to eventually replay it. Goes for the Sliver. They're not too far from escaping it, since they did get to mill with Terra. No mobilize on the voice. And I'll wait to transform Oko. Play Archdruids plus Lanor Elves. And maybe make the Elves every type.
What a lovely look on you.
Opponent had a Get Lost for Oko, although it's not too difficult to redeploy. Just will take us a while to get to an ultimate, with Flash escaping soon. And a Voidwalker. Okay, so can play Oko. And then... yeah, I guess this one has Shadow, so it can just attack Oko for 3. So maybe we start by exploring. Resurgence is not exciting. If I put it in the graveyard, then opponent might gain control of it, but that's okay. Master of Waves is a little bit more exciting. Has protection from Flash as well. Play Oko. And let's just +2. And then if I attack, we just help them escape Flash, so I should probably just pass. But if they have a fetch land, they can take out Oko once again. It's gonna be Alicia. Pretty nice to have a Voidwalker to enable raid for you.
I felt much worse.
Alright, so I can transform Oko and then just kind of cash it in for the -1. Does mean losing Devotion here, I believe. So I might be better off playing the Master first. Getting another +2.
You have so much potential.
And then how do I attack? I think so. They can replay Terra for 5 mana. But we kind of want to get the game over with now. And we got to make use of the Devotion from our enchantments. Can end of turn surveil. So currently our creatures are getting pumped if they're elementals or if they're elves. Although yeah, I guess minusing with Oko while Voidwalker's in play is also not very effective. So there's no real point in using the -1. Opponent does escape Flash. Can't target the Master since it has protection from red. Even though they're trying, so opponent's gonna take out Oko.
Clever move.
Yeah, I mean racing Flash is still gonna be difficult. So I can block Alicia.
This is why I left.
Opponent maybe not quite knowing how protection works. I will surveil. And a Utopia Sprawl is not very exciting. Spark Double, that's a good one. Can copy Master, although I did lose a bunch of my Devotion. Yeah, I mean Master still seems better than Archdruid here. I guess I don't have an attack with the Elves, so I may as well play Oko first.
Good as a fight if it's not fun.
This has all types.
What a
And then I could hit for 5. And maybe even send in my elemental tokens here. In case our opponent's going to play a sweeper. Opponent falls to 12, so yeah, we could have lethal on the way back. And our opponent needs to get around protection from red. A White Overlord makes a couple blockers, that's decent. Although we might still be able to go wide enough. There's a Cling to Dust. Opponent grabs a Sentinel. And our opponent's going to play defense, although Voidwalker can block. So they could have attacked with it, and Imperious can now also pump our creatures once more, and our opponent scoops it up. Yeah, that'll do it. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play, facing Sorin, mono-black vampires. This has been nerfed in Historic and therefore Brawl. What's different? I guess its mana value 6 or less compared to just any vampire. Our hand is functional. Although a good start from Sorin is going to be hard to beat. Now I'm less incentivized to play the Signet. Could play the Phantom and have something in play that I can plus Oko onto. Opponent had a Dark Ritual in hand all along. Or a Shieldred on turn 2. Yeah, that's pretty effective. So now less into the idea of playing Oko. Although I could still +2 and take a hit for 4. Although Sorin, yeah, only gives vampires a +1 counter. Yeah, it's gotta be a 3-drop here. I guess the Imperious at least trades for Shieldred, so it's maybe a fine starting point. Frax in Arena we can try and destroy with a Sovereign if we make a cat first. Did not draw a land, so I cannot double spell. But yeah, maybe go Oko plus on Phantom. And then next turn the Sovereign can take out the Arena.
Here's a clever strategy for you. Surrender.
And then I probably attack, because if they remove Imperious I get punished for not getting 5 damage in. I'm okay if Oko takes 4. There's Sorin. Probably cheating out a vampire. Alright, what is this? A Revenant, that's a flyer, that's unfortunate. Now I do have Imperious although Imperious doesn't have Trample. So that's, yeah, pretty awkward. I can still just go Signet into Sovereign, and then plus on the Imperious anyways, an attack. And then they probably trade for Imperious but I get to take out the Arena. The protection from cats and dogs unlikely to come up in this matchup. Unless I use Oko on the Revenant. I guess I should have considered that too. Turn the Revenant into all types, and then they cannot block, and I could have taken out the Arena. Opponent took it anyway, so I guess that worked out. Yeah, can't forget Oko also targets opposing creatures. Opponent now dumping a bunch of vampires. They can take out the Sovereign. Just +1ing on Sorin. Feels like they should have used a different +1 then. Oko down.
Nobody likes fun anymore.
Alright, opponent still has some Death Touchers back, making things tricky. But I could go Tarantusk plus Nexus. Bumping up my creatures once again. This one they cannot block. Take out Sorin. And then, yeah, we might end up using Oko on the opponent's creature. Revenant attacks. Take my draw. Find another Lord. So if I go Oko, +2 on the Vampire, they won't be able to block my non-sovereign creatures. So then I kind of force them to maybe block with Shieldreds. Just gonna make sure I don't die on the way back. Alternative is going Sovereign plus Omo. I guess Omo can also target the opponent's stuff. Alright, that seems better then. Do have to watch out for instant speed removal, although it could also just be the Mind Stone holding priority. And yeah, now with the Masquid, there's no reason to target my own creatures anymore. So target my lands, target the Vampire of Dire Moon. So this now has all types, meaning dog as well. And hope they can't remove the Sovereign at instant speed. Shieldred trades. Possible they're setting up a board wipe. But then Vadmir probably would have jumped as well. Mindstone's gonna get sacrificed. So they could have maybe gained 2 with Shieldred still in play. Yeah, this is the game where opponent cast a Shieldred on turn 2. Null Priest will get it back. But yeah, between Oko and Omo, we can once again make 2 dogs. So we might be alright. Revenant attacks, opponent at 14. So play Oko. So yeah, if I just use Oko on the lifelinker and Omo on a second creature, they'll only be able to block Shieldred on Sovereign, Vadmir on something else, and still take Exaxes here. And yeah, Shieldred on Sovereign still a trade, which is fine. And there we go, awesome! Super close game here against the mono-black vampires. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Hei Bai, 5-color shrines. We've got a pretty slow one on the draw. Still need a third land, no acceleration. I think I need something a little faster. This could work. Once upon a time, looking for another Lord. Turn 1 Mystic, turn 2 Oko. Speedrun to ultimates. Definitely don't need lanes anymore, although that's all we got. Sadly, have to say no to the Hive Pool here, which would have been pretty sweet with the extra sliver to discount it. Alright, so we'll need to draw some creatures, definitely holding the Mimic. And then still gonna try Oko, even though Halfling could make it uncounterable next turn. +2. Nothing from our opponents. And now Honden of Infinite Rage. Well, at least we have Diffusion Sliver here, which can help. Play Utopia Sprawl, enchant my forests, play Diffusion, play Halfling. And I meant to attack for 1 here, tapped a bit awkwardly. So this already has all types, so now I can target the Halfling. So 1 damage can go to Oko, perhaps. But I can still set up the ultimate if I'd like. Opponent tries to target the Mystic, and yeah, they're gonna find out they need to pay 2 mana now. Which they're not willing to do. And let's see what Hei Bai reveals. Seeing Winds to draw cards, that's one of the better ones. Thundershoot Rides, pretty good too. I will transform Oko. And then can ultimate, play Dryads. And name... Could go for Sliver to pump the Diffusion Sliver in play, or we can name Dryads, so this has a bit of protection. And then first attack, at least with Halfling. Don't know if I want to trade the Elvish Mystic just yet, but I guess that's fine. Opponent takes it. So now 2 damage can finish off Oko. Thundershoot makes a Sapperling. And Glasspool copy Thundershoot's pretty sweet too here. So if they don't have a sweeper, I'm kind of liking my chances. Depends what kind of build of shrines our opponent is playing. Maybe they can flicker Hei Bai a bunch and make some tokens. And draw 2. Oko back to the command zone. Hopefully that one missed damage earlier is not going to cost me too much. So Honden's still on the stack, not sure what they're debating. They might have a flicker effect, and they maybe want to flicker Hei Bai in response. Oh, opponent's gonna time out and draw 2. And gets an island. Talisman's fine. Ephemerate, Hei Bai. Finds another shrine. Ooh, that was a good one. Life's Origin leaves behind an extra token. Haywire Might. And we get to untap. So I don't think I'll be able to attack for lethal, and next turn our opponent will draw even more cards. If I try and play Oko, I could still play the Mimic. This pumps Sapperlings, which does not include itself. So I might be better off first copying the Dryad and then playing Oko's second main in case they want to trade for the Dryad. And then I can attack with my Vigilant Mana Dorks. Do I send in the other 5/5? Yeah, it's a close call. They can trade for Hei Bai and a token, or double block Hei Bai plus Might. So I don't think it's necessarily worth it. They could have another flicker effect. There's also Ephemerate with a rebound coming in. Alright, Hei Bai down. Gain 3, and we can replay an uncounterable Oko. +2 on maybe the Diffusion Sliver. And yeah, opponent's gonna scoop it up, I'll take it. So yeah, an early Oko ultimate. Good enough to conquer the shrines. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Firelord Azula, a very scary commander. But we do have a Witness Protection to try and shut it down. So if it doesn't get discarded, that might be a fine answer. Still need to draw a land or two, but I'll give it a shot. Found another removal spell in enchantment form. Turn to Talisman. Found a land at least. But yeah, next turn I'm probably already forced to fire one of these off. If they don't play Azula, Changeling Destroy Talisman's decent too. And also have to watch out for flash creatures in this matchup. And then what type to name? Given my hand, probably Merfolk. Opponent's gonna consider. Would cost them a life to float mana in response, but if they don't, we know the coast is clear to attack. Alright, it's gonna be an Artist first. Also potentially worth shutting down. So yeah, I guess we go Witness Protection, play Oko. That also builds up our devotion for Master of Waves. Opponent jumps right away. Possible they have a Delve spell in hand, or are planning to cast a Sweeper. For now, might want to get a Breeding Pool. +2 on Mistbinder. Changeling already has all types.
You have so much potential.
Ooh, Arena. I was about to say a hasty Azula could still do some damage, and opponents got it. No, they're gonna use it for Ragavan and Azula, so they have 6 damage to take out Oko out of nowhere. And the Firebending could still maybe copy a removal spell. Although it doesn't seem like they have one at least. Yeah, we still lost Oko. That's a setback. So what are my options? Can Transformation Azula. That's pretty much non-negotiable. And then I guess we'll see what we draw. Unable to Scream. Or I could Omni-Changeling maybe the Mistbinder. Could also copy opposing creatures, but kind of want to save it for Master of Waves. So then for now, I think I just pass. Keep my blockers back for Ragavan. Take 3. Opponent passes. Alright, let's try Master. Opponent had a wash away, sadly. Alright, in that case I'll still pass. Can surveil end of turn. Look for more lords. And there's one of them. So play Automaton. Naming Merfolk. And then I could still Omni-Changeling. City still doesn't net us any extra mana. And then I could copy the Changeling to blow up Talisman. That probably doesn't matter too much. I guess a Ragavan getting pumped by our lords could be pretty sweet. Would be a 2-1 getting +2/+2, so they could still trade for Azula. Yeah, probably just copy a lord once again. And probably still name Merfolk. I'll attack. And Windfall to go digging. Still happy to take 3 from Azula, so they can't replay her. And an Ascension is fine. Ooh, find a Feline Sovereign. That's quite a draw. So if I use the city now, that's 4 mana. I can go Nexus into Sovereign. All my creatures are now also cats. So those can blow up some artifacts and enchantments if they connect. And it's also an attack for 20. So we'll blow up the Ascension. Maybe Talisman would have been better. So do you have a sweeper? Is the real question. You do. That's too bad. Masked Vandal can still destroy the Talisman. And then it's 3 mana to make a Shapeshifter. 5 mana to play Oko. Opponent will get to play Hasty Azula. Yeah, I think Vandal plus Nexus is fine. And then I don't care about Changeling. Can do this at instant speed. Azula without haste. Important to note. So I might be able to enchant her once again. And a Mutavault isn't bad. That works. And our opponent's gonna scoop it up. Yeah, they cannot function without their commander. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw, facing Muldrotha, a graveyard deck. Got a promising start. Halfling can set up a turn 2 Oko. And we already have a few lords. A couple on the merfolk side, an elf. Now let's try Oko. Uncounterable with a halfling. And we're gonna start plussing.
Submit to them. Change is good for the soul.
Opponent's ramping. So could double spell Master and Flash and Hexcatcher. Don't think I want to transform Oko just yet. Although now Archroot's also pretty tempting. Think I'll go Master plus Hexcatcher.
You have so much potential.
Opponent's reading Oko. We could technically set up the ultimate next turn. And a memory jar. Well, I could just counter it here. I think I'm fine with our opponent having it. We'll flash in the Hexcatcher. And sure, let's transform Oko. -6. And probably want to go for Elf given our hands. Even though it doesn't pump the Hexcatcher at the moment. But I could cast Omo after attacking. Or we can go for a Great Henge. Yeah, maybe Great Henge makes more sense for now. Okay, so our opponent wives the board. I guess we still have the Hexcatcher we can use. Still a pretty good turn. Our elves having +3/+3 vigilance and hexproof. Opponent did indeed have a damnation, so I gotta use the Hexcatcher's ability, sacking the halfling first. Opponent can pay for it. And then Hexcatcher probably just sacrifices itself now. Counter Damnation, keep Master. Opponent does use Memory Jar. So our hand's gone. And they play a land. And Memory Jar. And gives us our original hand back. Probably should have gained 2 end of turn there. Not that it matters too much. Transform Oko. And then Dionys is pretty sweet here. Although I guess a bit of a nombo with a Vigilance emblem. Our creatures have Island Walk. Opponent does control an island, so they wouldn't be able to block. And a Sylvan Primordial is probably not going to save them. Yeah, that was turn 2 Oko, set up a quick emblem, being quite strong. But yeah, both of my creatures are merfolk. And there we go, sweet, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the play, facing Brigid, green-white, tokens or Kithkin. Our hand has some slivers. Not the sliver I like the most, the one that makes mana. But, yeah, this one's borderline. I don't think the fusion's going to be all that relevant. So I think we can do better. Alright, we've got some mana acceleration to maybe set up a turn 2 Oko. So we'll try this. Start with the birds. Figure of Fable, definitely a Kithkin. So I can go Utopia Sprawl into Oko. Could have also +1 on the figure if they end up pumping it to a 2/3. Just want to get our Planeswalker established. Next turn we can try and protect it. And the birds having all types is going to be relevant. Spark Double. That's kind of fun. So, not in a hurry to transform Oko. Here, name... And looking at my hand, maybe... Spirits. Do have a couple other Spirit Lords in there. And then if I go Explorer, I can still play the Mayor as well. And then next turn, Spark Double could also copy Oko. So every creature in play has all types. Still don't have the best block on figure, but that should change pretty soon. And the Battler, another Kithkin. And our opponent stays back. So still not going to transform Oko. And I can go a Geist. And then still play Spark Double. I think I make another Oko. +2 on the Geist. Can maybe +1 here or +2 again. I guess +1 makes a little bit more sense perhaps. And attack with the Explorer. So next turn we can ultimate the first Oko. Opponent can now play Brigid. I guess I can trade the Geist if they attack with the Battler. Opponent stays back. So make sure I transform the correct Oko. So this is the one that we don't want to transform. This one we do. -6. Name Squirrel, since we have a Squirrel in hand. Although I guess I'm about to transform this one too. Plus on here. And I can animate Mutavault and attack. Everyone's got Vigilance and Hexproof, +3/+3, getting pumped by every single Lord as well. So yeah, Oko cannot be underestimated. If you can set up an early ultimate, especially off a turn 1 accelerant, it can catch some people off guard. And then yeah, there's of course a ton of synergy throughout, as long as you can turn every creature into every creature type. So you also get to maybe enjoy a few of the lords that typically don't see a lot of play, since those creature types are maybe a little bit underrepresented and don't have enough support for an entire Brawl deck. Now at least you get to include them all in your Oko deck instead. Now of course the deck does have some serious weaknesses, especially to more controlling strategies that have a lot of board wipes, because even with an Oko emblem giving hexproof, it doesn't protect against a sweeper that destroys all your creatures. And then there's some pretty busted commanders out there, thinking of Rofellos, where if you don't have an immediate answer, they can very quickly snowball, and it's not like our deck has a ton of early answers to it, so those powerful commanders are also going to give you a hard time. But overall, I've been enjoying my time playing this deck. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.